to the Business Blueprint Podcast, where we take you on an exciting adventure through our triumphs and challenges and failures in creating and maintaining a thriving 6, 7, and 8-figure business. Get ready to dive into our strategies, decisions, and yes, even valuable lessons we've learned from our missteps. But that's not all. We'll also bring you industry-leading guests who will provide you with their priceless insights and wisdom. Stay tuned because the captivating journey of the Business Blueprint begins right now. Hi, I'm Charles Hatley with the Business Blueprint, and today is part 2, talking about artificial intelligence. Last week, Dan and I talked about large language models and AI and ChatGPT as it relates to kind of you using it within your business. And today for part 2, I wanted to talk about more the vendors that you have. So maybe you have a marketing vendor, maybe you have a vendor that does other things, and they might be using artificial intelligence without telling you. Dan, can you kind of walk us through why you would find it problematic to have, let's say, a marketing vendor that now is using artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and not telling you and trying to pass off the work as their own?
Sure. I'd want to know, what am I actually paying for?
Mhm.
And this really highlights looking at the contracts on the vendors that you're going to hire and see exactly when they say they're going to write articles for you. So from a marketing standpoint, what is the content that they're writing? How are they writing it? Where are they sourcing the information from? And then just really asking those questions. And I know you mentioned it in the part 1 is identifying the right questions to ask. And when you have these vendors in place, especially marketing, these are questions nowadays we need to know, because if I'm paying for a service, I'm paying for the service, and I'm paying for someone to use long language model or any source of AI, because I could just do that myself. I might as well bring it in-house and start there. But I'm going to someone who has experience in this field, who has the knowledge and the depth and information to know this is what we've used that works, this is what doesn't work. But if you're going to use AI as a guide or just another resource, I'm okay with that. But I want to know that if you're telling me that these articles you're writing for content, they're going to be put on my website, and that's going to tie my name and my company or my firm to it, I need to know that it's written by a human and not by some type of artificial intelligence. And I want to know, what is the fact checking that you're going to do to make sure that the information you're putting out there is not only correct, but is current too. And these are just discussions as we move into this new phase that we need to make sure that we're having. And another thing that comes to mind as I'm talking about just making sure we're asking the right questions, just from being an attorney and from the law firm side, malpractice. I envision a world where a lot of malpractice insurance carriers are going to have certain provisions in their agreements to where what kind of guides and dictates the use of AI and what that coverage is going to be, because it may usurp that coverage. And then you're looking at a whole host of problems that may deviate from what the actual plan is that could subject you to more financial liability. So I just want to make sure that any vendor I'm hiring is using it appropriately, but also communicating with me when they're going to use it, how they're using it, and then letting me know this is the information that we received, but here's how we're going to use it.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things you hit on was how up to date is the information, right? We know ChatGPT runs on a lag, is purposely running on a lag. So, you know, if a rule or a law or something is changed within the last 2 months, something up to date, it's not going to catch it. And then you put this information out there, maybe as an advertising piece, and tie your reputation and your company's name to it. There may be a governing body that comes along and says, you just lied to the public on your most recent article. Explain yourself. And you're like, a vendor did it. Doesn't matter. Your name's on it.
Right.
And that's the end of the conversation, right? Your name's on it. You know, I am relatively, I don't know what the right word is. I like to make sure that the people that are doing service for us are doing the services they're doing. So I have undertaken a lot of effort to figure out how these large language models, these AIs, kick out information, right? So in every field, we use precatory language. We use language specialized to our field. We use terms that maybe if you took it to everyday English would not. So if you're looking at AI, it's going to say a term weird. And so I run almost everything I do, like when I write something in the verbiage that we would use in our industry specific language, I then run it through AI and read it. because I want to see how AI is going to kick back out what I wrote.
Mm.
And that has given me a very intuitive feel to be able to see AI really quick. Um, you know, barring being somewhat psychotic on it, and I don't know if that's the right word. What would you suggest to companies on how to keep an eye?
Well, your suggestion is a good one, because it's a good basic way to just to figure out what's being said in my field. As you were talking, I was thinking, knowledge is power,
Hmm.
and the more information that we can get to make sure that we're putting the best product out there, that's great. I would say put it in and see how it comes out. But then also, I would have direct conversations with that vendor to make sure that they're utilizing their talent and not the talent of AI. Because at the end of the day, and you mentioned it's we may not bear all of the liability, but we're going to bear a good portion of it, whether it's from a financial standpoint because of a lawsuit or it's a reputation standpoint, which has many effects that are negative and could really just be devastating to a company. And once you put information out there that isn't accurate or it's misleading, then you lose the trust of the public. And it's so hard in those situations to get that back, to where I just approach it from an extremely conservative standpoint and mindset that I need to know this information has been sourced and fact checked and written by a human, and not just taken from some type of AI and then just given to me as a product. And this is what we're going to put out there, because I want to make sure that my name is associated with the trust of the public, and not something that others could ever question. Because once you cross that line, it's so hard to get back.
It is. And, even the trust of the search engines, right? Search engines, Google, Microsoft, DuckDuckGo, any search engine that you decide to use, what they do is they crawl the web on purpose looking for the most accurate content possible. And if you have a piece of content that was generated by AI that's not accurate, you're going to lose the trust of the search engine. So not only are you losing the trust of the public, you are now being forced down out of the public eye. And so the consequences of this, of having this piece of information out there, can be very long lasting. And you may not even realize it. One of the concerns I have is, recently we it was in the news that there was a Democratic primary and they used AI to generate a phone call from the president, and they were able to track down very quickly where it came from. And they got the AI call, they tracked it down like a day. And you're like, well, how do they do that? There had to be something within that AI that allowed them to track it down. And of course there is. There's code in that AI. AI is going to largely rely on a technology that was used way back in the day of cartographers. So cartographers used to put fake islands, fake roads on maps, and that was their way of being able to tell if somebody copied their map, right? They would look for, 123 Street in Delaware and say, yep, you copied my map because that doesn't exist. So they purposely put junk stuff in their maps. That's how AI is doing it. It's purposely marking what's going on. And so as we look, and especially in the marketing and advertising space, and we put AI out there, we know that ChatGPT is running on a delay. So eventually it's going to start looking at AI information. It's not going to want to index AI information. So then it's going to start ignoring the AI generated content, because you can't have AI get an answer from AI, because you'll have this weird distortion of information. They talk about it. It's the ghost responses, things like that. How could you possibly explain to the people that are working for you that that's where the future is going with this?
Yeah, you're going to really have to dumb it down to a lot of individuals, in the sense that, and I'll put myself in that boat too, because it's so new that it's hard to process. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember the days when you're going from, 8-track to, not that I had any track, but 8-track to cassette to, what was it, to a record to, no, record to cassette to CD. And it's just like, trying to, I remember just being a kid and thinking, what is this CD thing? There's no way this is ever going to work. And well, I'm just going to continue with the cassette, because people are stuck in their ways, and change is hard. But then explaining change and how it can have a positive effect is really the best way to approach it. And when you're talking with technology, you can just get lost in the language of it, right? Because it's hard to comprehend and understand how something that you were just explaining could really, as I'm looking at it from an employee standpoint, how does that help me? All I'm hearing is computers are going to take my job. And that's kind of what we've been hearing for quite some time, that computers are going to take over the world and the human jobs are going to be eliminated and we'll be reporting to some type of bot. Well, it's really, I understand what you're doing, but here's what can make your job easier and allow you to really be more efficient, but put out better work than what you're doing because you're so tied down in some of these weeds that this will take that away from you and allow you to really think more creatively. And hopefully people will enjoy what they're doing a little bit more because some of the frustrations will be dealt with by the AI or by the bot or whatever type of technology you're using. But it's really just explaining and showing how this type of long language or AI, whatever you're going to use it for, is really going to benefit that position that the employees are in, and how it's going to allow the company to grow and provide better service, not only to their clients, but also for the employees too.
You know, I personally, as aware and concerned as I am about how bad AI could be for people who don't use it the right way, am very happy about about the possibilities of the implementation, thinking about the employee experience, just kind of like what you were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. You know, if I came to somebody and said, look, I want a cash flow model based off Dan Mintz's cash flow story. I'm just making something up, right? He wrote a cash flow story. It's a good thing to watch. They'd be like, what are you talking about? And so rather than them have to go out, find out who Dan Mintz is, read the articles, read everything that he wrote, they could just literally type in, I would like a 6 weeks cash flow model based off Dan Mintz theory in a chat GPT. Maybe a little bit more complicated entries, but they'll get it. And now, instead of being frustrated and time consuming, hopefully we've used this to increase the happiness of that particular employee who now gets to say, look, here's a rough draft. I got it from AI. Is this kind of what you're looking for? And if so, I will take this and, you know, give me some feedback and I will build it from there. You know, I think that's an amazing opportunity. You know, I think having it be kind of a call center approach is an amazing opportunity with the right amount of oversight. So in your opinion, how would you give that AI model the oversight necessary to make sure our customers are not lost?
I would start with letting the customer know, just even on your website, that we want to give you as much information as we can so you can make decisions quickly, but also be a little bit more informed. And that's why we have the bot that's going to ask you questions. And as soon as you log on, have it identify itself as a bot, but we're here to help out. Nothing's more frustrating or misleading when you think you're actually talking to a live person. And there's just too many websites. And I sometimes still fall victim to that. And then I'll type in and I'll stick the response back like, oh, no, that's not a live person. But then it's like, is it really feasible and cost effective to have someone manning that 24/7? But you can merge the two to where during normal business hours, you're either tag teaming it to where you have a live person and a bot on there helping out, or you just have it after hours so you can still be able to provide some type of service. But you never want to completely rely on that, because if you take the human element out, then it becomes just too transactional and it will backfire and you'll lose some of your potential customers or clients, to where it's really just a resource or a tool to help get them to you, but not solve any of their problems or issues. And then I see it just from, you don't want to mislead anybody either. And I always go back to the medical field too, because you don't want doctors relying strictly on that information that someone puts in and then what the bot lets the doctor know, because it could be potentially insurance fraud, or you just always want to make sure that whoever that person is on the other side is that person, because there's just so many concerns with identity issues and confidentiality that you just don't want to strictly rely on information that you're getting from someone behind a screen given to a bot. You want to make sure that you're protecting information, but also meeting with that person, adding that human element to it. But that also allows you to really identify and perform the analysis that you need to make sure that you're given the proper recommendations on the best way to move forward.
Yeah, you know, I love the idea of, you know, chat with an AI assistant today or call us, right? I am not a proponent of layering the steps that a potential client has to take in order to avail themselves of our services, right? It makes no sense to me to say, hey, I've got a question. And I'll give a perfect example. We pay people to do all sorts of things. There's a technology that I was using. I didn't know how to do something. So I start talking to it. It turns out it's a bot. It didn't know the answer. So then I finally, after waiting a very long time and putting in a lot of prompts, can I please talk to a human? Can I please talk to a human? Can you just give me your phone number so I can call you? It finally put a human on there. And the human literally typed into the bot my question and spit out the same answer the bot did. And I said, and I always try to be nice. I was like, this is exactly what your AI thing said to me. What's the point of me talking to you? And, now I'm the rude one. Of course I am, for asking that question. But I gave up and dialed the phone. And so for me personally, what it has, in my millennial existence, I don't want to talk on the phone. I personally would rather talk on the phone than talk to an AI bot. As soon as I see that, I start searching for a phone number and I'm like, fine, I'm just going to call someone. Do you think there will be a resurgence in that idea for a while?
I do. And I can actually sympathize with your frustrations too, because I'll be on the phone. I'm just like, I just want to talk to a human. And it just keeps saying the thing over and over. And then you talk to someone, they're just like, they're reading off of the screen. And it's frustrating. So I do think that there will be a resurgence in that because people want to talk to someone. They don't want just something regurgitated to them, something they could just figure out themselves. You're calling this service provider for a reason. You want help, and instead of providing the assistance and hopefully alleviating some of that concern, you're adding to their frustration, which then could lead them to be so frustrated that they could leave a bad review on your website or they could not recommend you to others. So there's just so many negative effects that I could see this leading to, that balance that we've been talking about is really important.
It is. And, like you said earlier, I just can't imagine the consumer or anybody who is being pushed into an AI platform is going to appreciate if the company or the employer is trying to trick them in some way. If you use an internal AI system, you would say, ask our AI assistant, your question. And like, okay, I'm asking an AI assistant. Because I do think that it's going to become, and probably a little bit further than the near future, I think it's going to become so good that it's going to be much more difficult to tell that you're not talking to a real person. But there's still going to be things. There's still going to be inflections. There's going to be things that let us know this isn't quite right. And I think I wouldn't appreciate it, right? If I'm trying to find an answer and I'm like, man, where did the customer service go? Oh, I can't imagine that I would appreciate that. So, in trying to make sure that we have these technologies available for our customers, where do you see the balance at in the future?
It's really making sure that when you want to provide that customer, actually, you know what? It starts with identifying what your customer service experience is supposed to be.
Mm.
And if you want to continue to provide that excellent service, you want to make sure that you have a system that has information available, but also the option to talk with somebody. And then if it's after hours, make sure that it says you're talking to AI or this is a chat box, we're after hours, try to answer questions. But if not, here's our number. You can leave a voicemail or you can schedule with somebody. Just give an option and be completely transparent, because then you'll hopefully take away some of that frustration. But it all starts with the customer experience. And I just know personally, if I'm not having a good experience, I'll go somewhere else. And I want to know that the company that I'm hiring is thinking outside the box. And I don't want someone just relying on cookie cutter methods or just relying on AI. I'm paying you for your service and for your intelligence and your training. And I want that. I don't want just some computer telling you what needs to be done. And that just makes me a little bit uneasy and nervous. And it just takes away from the whole customer service. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that the more transactional we get, we're really getting away from the customer service side. And AI and bots and chat GPT, long language models, everything is great because it moves us forward and can provide good customer service. But it's really, it's a balancing act. And it starts with us as the owners or as the managers to make sure that our employees and our clients are getting the benefit of both.
Yeah, I think for now, and as far as I can foreseeably see in the future, it's an enhancement to the great team that we have. It's not a replacement for our team. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this today. I could talk about this for another 5 hours. I think another interesting conversation, that I would like to talk to you about is where I see implementing a closed, asynchronous large language model into our organization for the benefit of our employees, having, institutional knowledge to institutional knowledge. I mean, access to institutional knowledge. That is something that I'm very interested in. But if you like this, please hit subscribe. If you have any questions or responses, you'll respond. If you're an expert in large language models and say, hey, I got something to add, contact us. We'll talk to you and love to hear what you have to say. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this insightful and entertaining, be sure to hit subscribe below and join us on social media to get more insight into what we are going through each and every day.